Testing, testing. We're live, we're live, we're live. All right, y'all. I just wanted to come live. It is Friday the 13th. What up, what up? I'm at the crib chilling. I have had quite a week. This is the second week of January, and I can't even believe it. I thought it was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm 5 months in. I can't even believe it's just the second week of January. When I tell you this week, I've been on every time zone. Okay. I've been dealing with mostly people in California. And so, for the most part, I've kind of been operating on their time zone. But because I've had things I need to take care of myself, I've also been just still getting up, as my normal schedule, making sure I stick to my workout routine and everything so that I can, kind of just be clear headed. But I've been dealing with people over in Brazil, over in Colombia. Um, so I'm looking forward to the things that are to come with that and with those conversations from a business standpoint. But it's all good. But I mean, this week, while it has been crazy and it's felt like I've packed months just into this week alone, it's been exciting for me. It's been rejuvenating. And I have to attest that to me pushing myself beyond, my like norms, right? Those who know me know that I'm in my 40s. I'm 44. Actually, I don't mind sharing. I'm 44 years old. So I've lived a little life, but again, it's never too late to push yourself to do new things and to learn new things. It's not going to be easy, right? Because sometimes in that you have to unlearn some things. And so that's part of what this week's journey has been too. Um, but there's been so many phenomenal things that have happened. I've been able to connect and make good contacts and connections with people from all over the world, and really just kind of learn from their perspectives of how they think, even some folks here in America, right, but of different cultures. That's been interesting. Like earlier this week, to kind of start to kick things off, actually on Monday, I had somebody challenge me, and it was just crazy when I reflect on it. But he challenged me and he said, it's okay to like making a lot of money, and it's actually selfish. He had me like recite this, right? It's actually selfish of me to not make a lot of money, right? And that's crazy to me. And the thing that really gets to me is that it shouldn't be crazy. It shouldn't be a crazy thing. It shouldn't be an abnormal thing. But for some reason, a lot of times in this country and with different cultures, my culture specifically, a lot of times we demonize money. A lot of times we demonize people who have excess of money. We demonize people for not struggling, for not volunteering to live a struggle life. Who wants to live that way? Like, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I haven't worked as hard as I work. I haven't like put up with all the isms, right? When I talk about the isms, I'm talking about sexism, racism, genderism. I haven't put up with all that's nonsense over the last 20 years of a career to live mediocre, to live low. Of course, I live reasonable. To be honest, my financial planner always, tells me you actually live pretty frugal, right? And that's what gets crazy to me. And actually, it kind of upsets me because I have had people try to attack me, right? But again, I think over the last year, like last year especially, it's like I started to become a bit more aware and gain a different awareness. And I realized that part of the disconnect was that here, thank goodness to the goodness of God, He'd elevated me and allowed me to live a lifestyle of, upper middle, upper class, right? And I realized that for most Americans, especially most Black Americans, we are taught to strive to middle class, right? That is the goal, right? That's the award, right? Because you're supposed to be able to live comfortable in middle class, but the reality is, over the years, with so much inflation, and then just as social norms have changed with the introduction of social media, with the IG lifestyle, which a lot of folks are putting on and fronting, um, you know, people try to live those lifestyles on that middle class income, and the reality is that you can't. It's not enough. As in the words of the infamous Archbishop, it's not enough. It's not enough, right? And that's just the reality. And I think I'm committed, even more, like this year in 2023, to stop with some of the sugarcoating that we do, especially in our community, right? And not wanting, I understand not wanting to hurt feelings, but sometimes you just got to lay it out there and tell it how it is, because some people may not hear the messages. They may not be exposed to individuals that's able to give them a different perspective. And I've realized that in some respects I've robbed people of challenging their mindset, right? And challenging them to go beyond their thoughts, or these downtrodden, mediocre, like, goals and things that they may have, or this idea of thinking it's noble to live lackluster, right? And again, you want to be responsible, like, your own financial situation. But at the same time, like, some people really wear this as a badge of honor, walking around here looking on struggle mode. And then, they get upset with you because you live a life of abundance and prosperity, not understanding what you put into, or how you've been able to get to that point. They don't understand the manifestation. They don't understand the prayer life, the spiritual life that you have grown over the years, right? They don't understand the pushing yourself beyond measures, the risk that you've taken, right? As you can tell, my name, on this YouTube channel is Lamborghini C. Over the last few years, I acquired an affinity for fast cars, and I realized that transition for me started to take place as I started to take more risk in my career, and more risk from a financial investment perspective, right? When you start to take more risk in life and then you achieve it, it's like building those muscles when you're exercising, and pumping weights. Like, you might take a risk that you never thought you would do, and it goes well for you, right? And so that gives you the courage to go and take that next risk, or push yourself a bit more further than you normally would, right? And so I noticed with me, like, once I started to really operate in that manner, I started to really grow an affinity and love for taking riskier actions, right? And some of those were just really like starting to travel alone, being comfortable moving around in other countries by myself, right? Which, again, sometimes it was riskier than that, but sometimes rewarding. Um, I still have yet and have on my list. I want to I feel like I want to skydive. I want to jump from an airplane. I haven't been able to find a friend that wants to do that with me yet. So I may just have to do that by myself. I know one of my friends, she she lives several states away, and I met her when I was in Jamaica. We actually traveled together. We have someone mutual in common. And I remember her telling me about her wanting to, like, skydive, but because she knew that her family would talk her out of it, and I think this is a little dangerous, she actually just got up one morning, just left the house. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. And she went skydiving. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. But good for her, right? Good for her. So that's still on my list to do. But I love fast cars, right? So now any vehicle I have has to have some sort of sports mode in it. Um, and now, like, from time to time I do get to drive some of the supercars, quote unquote, like the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, and what have you, and we'll own a Lambo, one day in the near future. But of course, with me, I will find I actually have a way to monetize off of it. So, um, so that's to come, like I said, in the near future. But again, I really was thinking about this week, because this gentleman that kind of, you know, challenged me with this conversation, right? Or these two phrases that, you know, to tell myself it's okay to like making a lot of money, and it's selfish of me to not make a lot of money. Um, he's younger than me, I presume. Again, I don't know for a fact, but I believe he's younger than me. And I thought, wow, how great of him to really have that conviction, right? And I'm sure that's what's, pushed him to really have the success that he has to date. And he'll go even more, even further in life and in his career. But again, it really just it got me thinking, and then the rest of the week I've had an opportunity to really be around, and again, it does something to you, and it elevates you when you get an opportunity to really be around, like, people who are striving for more, people who are willing to make the sacrifices for more, and who know that they deserve it, right? And they're not trying to, like, do that mediocre down talk nonsense, right? It pushes you beyond means. Like, there have been nights this week I have been just dog tired, right? And again, that's where you hear me talk about spirituality a lot. But I realize, again, because it's the what's in me, and it's what's carried me and what's kept me through the years. And the reality of it all is that I couldn't do it without that in my life, because it allows me to be superhuman. The other night, I came from my office down here in my home, went upstairs, and I was so tired and so hungry, because I ended up getting on some meetings with some folks in California, right? So, with the time difference, they're kind of just getting cranked up, right? I'm like, man, like, I'm exhausted. And I still had so much more work to do, and I was just dragging, and hungry, and I didn't get to, because of this kind of awkward schedule, I didn't get to make it out to the store. And so when I did leave to go to the store I went to was closed when I pulled up. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And so I ended up stopping and grabbing some fast food from Arby's, which it's my, I guess it's probably the most fast food that I probably would get. But I got back here to the house. Was able to eat. And I remember going into my bedroom and just, I talked to God throughout the day, and just telling him, oh, God, I'm so tired, but I have so much to do. And as I was standing at my dresser, it's like I felt kind of the shivering through my body. And I just gained, it's like I just got this burst of energy. And it was at that moment I was reminded, like, how I've been able to push through and get things done through the years, and that it's not normal. In some respects, it's superhuman. Let's just be honest about it. But it's not me. It's the what's in me, right? And that's why I encourage everyone. That's why I'm so vocal and I talk so much about it, because I think that over the years, the church community has done such a disservice to us. Unfortunately, there's been some unscrupulous people that have been in leadership positions that have turned folks away from the church. My dad was one that, again, because of seeing those unscrupulous people, it was a deterrent for him. Like, he believed in God, and knew that God was real. But as he was younger, he was deterred, from getting involved in the church stuff, right? Because he saw how the people were living. And it's interesting because God, over the years, as I became like a teenager and an adult, God was able to utilize me and my walk with him, I think, to be able to be a physical manifestation to my father of just, how God can work, how God can work in the supernatural. Because thank goodness he was able to see me go beyond where he even thought that I could probably go, right? Because his mind, it just couldn't see that far. It's all about vantage point, right? You can only see as far as your vantage point and your exposure. And so I had achieved barriers that he, or jumped over barriers that he honestly, I don't think that he ever envisioned. He always spoke highly of me and always, cheered me on, and wanted success for me. But I think to actually sit in it, and I'm reminded as I sit here in my home now in Michigan. um, I bought this house. This was my second property, and I owned a condo just about an hour away. I'm in a metro area, so sometimes you have to drive a little bit to get to the next cities. And he came to visit me for the first time in this new house, and I had sent him a picture, of the house, and so he drove up here. It was 3 hour drive each way, and I remember him getting here and just sitting out in the driveway in his vehicle, in his car, and because I'm thinking I could see when I bought this house, I moved in immediately. I made it a smart house, so I have cameras everywhere. I basically can operate the house, like lights and things like that, from my phone, from anywhere in the world. And so I knew or got an alert that someone was out, so I was able to go to the camera and see, oh, okay, that's my dad's here. But he was just sitting there in his car, and he kept, I guess, looking at the photo in the house to make sure it was really that he was at the right place. And he just sat there. And I realized that he sat there because he couldn't believe that his child, like, this is what she achieved, right? And again, it wasn't me and a spouse. Like, I've never been married, so it hasn't ever been a situation of me, or dual income family or anything like that. um but it's been me and God. That's the important, that's the important thing. It's been me and God. And again, the fact that at that age I was in my 30s, in my probably late 30s, like 37, 38 or something. um and he understood this wasn't my only property that I owned, at that age, by myself, as a single woman. And so I think that again, that just, it blew his mind. And there had been things over the years. Like, I remember I moved to New Jersey right after grad school, and when I bought my first brand new car ever, it was a car that I manifested, and it was that of a Jaguar X Type, silver, black interior, leather. Kind of had it. Even that had like that sporty feel. And I remember calling him, you know, when I got home, like, Dad, hey, I just bought a new car. I got a Jaguar, and he just could not believe it, right? But again, it was just those things over the years, I think, that helped open his eyes and see really that, yeah, God is real and he really does operate in our lives. But I'm more vocal now, right, about God and what he's done in my life, because one, I understand that it's not just me, it's the God that's in me. And I hope to just be a voice and be an example that, again, God can work through anyone. I'm not perfect, and I don't try to live perfect. Okay. And I also know and understand I'm no preacher or no pastor, but I understand how God uses me to minister. He used me to minister to someone in another country um, the other night this week. And, and she wrote me a note, and it really blessed my heart, right? And I had no idea what this individual had been like faced with, or how, different folks have been trying to talk negative to her, right? Or trying to point out some things that they were telling her were negative that really aren't. It was a lie. Um, and so I was able to bring some encouragement and motivation to her, right? And just really be a light. She said, after I can't believe, after I got off the call, we had a Teams call, like a video conference call. And she said, wow, I've never felt like that after I've gotten finished talking to anyone. And again, because I am mature, because I understand who I am and whose I am and what's in me, I understand that what she felt, it wasn't me. It's the what's in me. And that's something that I pray, right? We have to be intentional about what we speak over our lives. And, and God really can use us. Like, I'm very committed to my prayer time and to my meditation time. One of the prayers that I pray over myself every morning is, Lord, use me to be a blessing in others' lives. And I speak over my life that I am a world changer. I am a history maker. And I ask God to use me to spark the minds of those who will change the world. And so, in that was a clear example of Him using me, because we say we're a world changer, right? And you don't know just how you're going to be used. And so I think that, it's important when you have those opportunities to not take them for granted. Again, this happened by, like, all of this came into play just kind of almost at a moment's notice. Like, when I entered into the week, like on Monday, I had no idea my week was going to go like this. I didn't know that I was going to be on a conference call with someone in Colombia, and another person over in Brazil, and setting up meetings with folks in Nigeria. Like, I had no idea that that's what what this week was going to entail. But it did, and I'm thankful. I'm tired, but again, it was rewarding, and insightful for me. I'm always continuing to learn, and really push myself and just grow. But again, it really got me thinking, and I really want our community to really think about this whole perspective around consciousness engineering, because I think that there's been a disservice. Especially, I'm going to talk about my community, right? And it may apply to some others here or there, but I can just speak from, again, my vantage point as a Black woman in America who knows she's Black. And that's important too, right? Because some of us forget, when you get to a certain class structure level, or they aspire to try to separate themselves, right? And I usually don't gel well with those type of people, because I'm a keep a real type of person. I'm the type of person that can navigate amongst social groups. That's why I do well. Like, no matter where I go, I'm cool in any hood, right? Not anybody can say that. You can catch me in Beverly Hills when I go to LA, which I used to go every year because my best friend lived there. I would have a day where I had to be in Beverly Hills and shopping on Rodeo Drive. I literally, and again, I understand it's not me. I literally would walk down the streets in Beverly Hills on Rodeo Drive, and people would come out of the store, the employees that worked, the SAs, the sales assistants, and say, man, can I show you something? Can you come? I want to show you something. I remember this happened one visit. And again, I was with my best friend, my childhood friend, and the lady put me into the store, me and my friend, and she just said, "Hey, I want to show you something." So she had us come in, and she pulls out this cell phone. This must have been back in oh my goodness, maybe 2016. So she pulls out this cell phone and she starts showing us the cell phone. Well, the cell phone, um, the screen was made of diamonds. And so my friend was looking at, because again, as she's explaining all the features to me and everything about the phone, again, I'm communicating and I'm like, oh, really? Wow. And I'm asking questions and things and really engaged, right? And so my friend is looking at me crazy and she kind of whispered to me, she's like, you gonna buy this? And I was like, no, because then she told us how much the cell phone was. The cell phone was $6,000. And so no, I didn't need a new cell phone and I wasn't interested in investing $6,000 in a cell phone. But it was really like ahead of its time, right? Many years ahead of its time. But again, like even then I knew and understood like there wasn't anything too special about me with her pulling me in. I understand that it's the what's in me, and it's something else that's that attracts people to you. And so I think that it's important to just carry that light with you. And like I said, I share and I speak openly um about who I am and my practices now, because I realize in the past I have been so closed off. I've been so closed vested, right? Because that's a lot of times what corporate America teaches you, especially if you are someone that is climbing that corporate ladder and you become into a role where you are a leader of an organization. If folks will really be transparent with you about it, it can be a lonely space, right? Because you're kind of taught that, hey, there's not a whole lot of people you can really trust, right? Because you have people that want to take your place. You have people that have an attitude and are upset that they have to take orders from you. And sometimes that has been racially motivated. I'm gonna just keep it real with you. Sometimes it has been. And then you have other people that they can see the uniqueness in you, they can see the sharpness in you, and they become intimidated because perhaps maybe they got to their position because of who they know and not what they know, but not what's in them. And so when you are a delightful person, when you are somebody that actually has some sense and intelligence and can execute, and as a leader you need to be charismatic enough and you need to be able to create empathy and move people into action. A long time ago, I remember having a mentor tell me, Clanetta, a leader just isn't like the boss or somebody with a title. A leader, the definition of a leader is somebody that's able to move other people into action. That's when you know you are a true leader. When you're able to move people to accomplish goals, when you're able to push and move people to do things that they never thought that they could do, that's when you know that you are a true leader in the true essence of it all, right? Um, and so sometimes people become intimidated by that. And especially when you're able to be that person and when you're able to rest and sit in that without having to be cutthroat, right? Because when you know and understand who guides your life and who's in you, what's in you, I know that I don't have to be cutthroat. I don't have to set people up for failure. I've had those things happen to me, or they tried to do it. Let me put it that way. I could tell stories for days, and maybe I will, right? But many of you can probably relate, and you suffered in silence. But I remember being early in my 20s in a major global corporation, and I presented to the top leadership in this organization, the top vice presidents, that I had no business even being in the same room. But let me tell you how God works. When God will use your enemies as your footstool, because the scenario was set up. It was set up to be an opportunity for me to fail. Because I am a quiet spoken person. Those that know me in person, right, in real life. And I was even quieter in my 20s. And that's the glory in all of it, right? For me to even be where I am in life, for me to even be sitting on this YouTube channel, right? Because people that know me over the years, they know and understand. Sometimes we have a joke that, like, hey, I can't hear you. I can't hear you because my speaking voice volume is usually really low. But it's gotten stronger over the years, right? When you've been through some things, it can tend to get a bit stronger. But this scenario was set up, I believe, because um, the individual didn't think that I was going to do well. And I didn't even know I was going to do well. I actually was quite nervous. Imagine being 20 something and you're like in your first, in a couple years within the organization, this global organization, and you're being asked to go and present in the boardroom in front of the top leadership of this organization, the top HR person, um, like the top VP of finance and operations, and labor relations. And I just remember being so nervous. And when I tell you the Holy Spirit came over me again, I had that tinkling sensation that kind of came over me. I got up and I started talking. And I remember feeling like I can go back, my mind can go back to it now, feeling that sensation. So I knew something was happening, right? And I know it wasn't me. That was God. That was the Holy Spirit, right? Speaking through me. And they were just leaning forward and so engaged and oh my goodness. And like wow, wow. And I remember my eyes glancing up beyond like the leaders at the boardroom table to the individual that set up the meeting in the back of the room and her face being beet red. Okay. Being as red as this YouTube symbol. And at that point, I realized this heifer tried to set me up. And I understood that true meaning of how God will turn something bad and work it for your good. Because believe me not, at the end of the day, they knew who I was, they knew and understood my name, right? And again, like there's been so many of those instances through the years. And if I'm honest with it, again, that was a great ending. But the reality is, for many of us, we deal with this time after time after time after time. And while we can celebrate in the glory of it and how God used it and worked it for our good, the whole church thing, ooh, you know, the reality of it is that it becomes wearing. It wears on your spirit and it wears on your soul. And it really wears on your ability to be able to trust people and how you interact with people. And like I said, you begin to understand and know that you need to maneuver a little bit differently in that world, right? So you start operating differently. And then the other thing that I had to deal with, now I realize more than ever, because now it all makes sense. I've always been entrepreneurial. And I've never been someone that has lived by the status quo. I've always thought outside of the box. I always knew that there were no limitations for me. And I never was the type of person to just, put your head down and just play the game. And that was because of how I was raised. I was raised by my father as a single parent, and my father always owned a business. My father owned himself. As a black man in America, he owned himself. And he taught and instilled in me to love myself and love who I am, to love my culture, and to own myself. I remember him telling me explicitly, don't ever allow yourself to be in a position where you have to stay at a job where you're being mistreated. Always make sure that you have enough money set aside where you're able to make moves and you don't have to put up with that. Because, see, my dad, when he was working, see, he dealt with instances where, nooses were being left in the locker rooms and things like that, where they would call the N word and stuff like that, right? And he never had to stick around and just like bite his tongue about those things because he always had another business on the side or a couple. And that's where I get that from. And over the years, I've come to realize that for a lot of people, like kind of in that work corporate world, it actually can rub them the wrong way because they aspire to own themselves. They aspire to be able to have the freedoms that come with being able to own yourself, right? But they're just so afraid and so scared to take the risk. But you actually took the risk. And some people will come to despise that in you. And that may create some, some conflicts or some issues that you really weren't bargaining for, right? And so you have to begin to work through those things, and again recognize it for what it is. And I'm finding now more than ever, right? Because I've been pushed really into this entrepreneurial space. And when I say I've been pushed there, it again, it's been God. Even when I've tried to go back, to the other world, it's like he keeps telling me, no. I said entrepreneur. Like I said, we're changing course right now. And and it's interesting, he showed me when I was away, when I was in Puerto Rico last year. I remember him showing me that at 44, I would be leaving the corporate world. And then a few months later, I remember getting a prophecy and being on the phone with a prophet, a certain prophet, who confirmed, yeah, your 44th year, your God is going to shift you and move direction with you. And then fast forward to my birthday in February of last year. My birthday, which, is a national holiday to me. So I took it off. It was my birthday fell on a Monday. And so I turned 44 last year and I ended up taking that Monday off because it gave me a long weekend. And again, it was a holiday, it was a celebration. And so I got a call, or actually I actually got a text that Sunday from my boss asking like, "Hey, I know you're off, but can we, have a brief meeting tomorrow?" And so I'm like, "Sure." And so we met that morning on my birthday where I just turned 44. And she shared with me that our company was having to be sold, and they actually were announcing it to the employees that day. And she apologized profusely because she knew it was my birthday. But, she said, "Hey, I wanted to make sure you knew, like, from me and what was going on because you're a leader in the organization and, people might reach out to you or what have you." And with that merger or that acquisition, actually, is what it was, they decided not to take the leadership team along with them. So my job was going to be eliminated once the acquisition took place. However, they needed us to stick around and manage the acquisition to make sure it was successful and actually went through, which we were rewarded for that. They made sure that we had a decent package or what have you. But when I tell you, even knowing, like, even sometimes when you get the prophecy, or God even speaks to you directly and kind of tells you what it is, but he may not lay it out fully, like step by step how it's going to take place, living through it still can be challenging, right? And really a test of your faith. But when I tell you, he really has pushed this entrepreneurial thing right with me. And I tell you, I find that I feel most comfortable in this space, especially like I said this week, connecting and getting to engage and building new networks of people that I will work with. I think for years to come, right? Um, and being inspired and being able to inspire, I can truly tell that I'm on the right course, right, and the right path. And it's become even clearer to me. I've had it spoken over me, and I've had the prophecies given to me, but I'm very, very clear just from again, the people that God has allowed me to interact with who have been open and willing to share, and and as we talk numbers, I can see the clearer picture now of really where this is going to go. It's crazy because like you think you've had success, or you think you've seen success in one respect, and then your mind can be blown, right? Because sometimes, like, as you're going through this, again, as your vantage point begins to elevate, it's like you begin to see, like, wow, like he's really gonna push me to a level of living that maybe I didn't even like expect to be able to have. Like, I thought this was the pinnacle, right? But he has more for me, and he's been showing me that over and over and over again, and giving me opportunities and exposures to be able to tap into it, to be able to experience kind of that elevated higher level of living as well, and interaction with individuals. And so it's amazing, right? It truly is. But with that, again, there has to be a lot of that consciousness engineering that takes place, because your mind can really play tricks on you, and you can go back to those old thoughts and habits of, well, do I really deserve to live like this? It's just me and Diamond. Like, should I? Do I really need all that? Yes, you do, because you could really do a lot of good in the world and the earth. And again, like, you have to, it's a constant battle, because then you'll also have people that will, like I said, they'll come at you, right? Like, I remember, like, last year, it was just crazy. Like, I never, people talk about haters and stuff, and social media, but I had, more commonly, it was crazy people in my DMs. I'm no famous person, my goodness, but in my DMs talking crazy to me. Like, wow, you always talk about money. You always post about money. Well, shit, it's all around me. So I talk about what's around. You should look like you need to talk about some money so you can get some. But, and well, see, I don't really share. I just live under the radar. Well, this person have no choice but to live under the radar. But so you start learning to to like just ignore that nonsense, because that's where I said I started to realize that, again, there was a disconnect, because, again, you're in a whole different class structure, right? From some of these individuals that haven't even been exposed to certain things or certain ways of living. And so to them, what become your norm or normal to you, or even like the lower level, right, seems like bragging to them, or seems like, wow, you're doing too much. But then you get into, to groups of people and engaging with groups of people, where, again, with the things that you're doing that irritate these folks, it's nothing. Like, it's normal. Like, for goodness sake, being in Brickell in Miami, like, some of the stuff that folks get irritated by and think like, oh my goodness, oh, you have this or that. That stuff is normal. Like, that's just regular living. And so, again, it made me really start to evaluate who I was allowing access to me. And even evaluating and learning that sometimes I was oversharing, right? Because I would talk numbers, because, again, it's all about vantage point, right? So as I would talk about, like, maybe properties, or I'm looking at a particular property, um, and throw out the numbers of, like, the with what they want for the property. Um, Again, like, I started to realize, like, yeah, that might be hard for somebody to receive, right? Because if a person, like, for instance, and again, like, it's just, honestly, it's just going to come out how it comes out, because I don't want to have to keep apologizing for just speaking truth. But the reality of it is, if a person is living a standard of living, let's say They might live in a house that's worth like 15, 20,000. There are some areas in America where those are the price points. Some are even lower, like where you can buy whole houses for six, $7,000. And then here I am sharing like, hey, I'm gonna buy another property, which for me now is like another third or fourth property, right? And it has a price point on it of over $1 million. Again, that's a whole different vantage point that that individual can't even imagine and can't even fathom. Now, depending on who that individual is and what's in them, either they're going to become inspired and they're going to say, wow, like I can't believe I'm close to somebody that's even able to like consider something of that nature. But see, if they haven't done, some self work and development within themselves, it's going to spark something in them, that of envy and jealousy, right? And then you start to realize again, sometimes people have access to you. And then also, some people are just delusional, right? Because it's like they can clearly see, like, how you live and, and again, I wonder sometimes, like, where is the disconnect? Like, I don't understand the disconnect, right? Because again, while I think I'm pretty private because I share some things. I share more now on social media than I probably have in the past, but even yet and still, there's a lot that I don't share, right? And but you see me like sometimes I have a $10,000 bag on my arm. Like, so why are we like shocked and like I don't understand. But I've come to realize I think that there's a level of delusion that's out there. And I don't understand it. And I think I've resolved that I probably never will understand it. And I'm not interested in understanding it. Right. Um, but I hope that again, like that I can be continue to be used. Like my goal is to be an example of like if people strive to have, elevation and growth in life, that they will. And again, I know for some people, like some folks have told me in the past, like not everybody wants to live wealthy. And I get that. But I still think that we all need to elevate because as we've seen over the last year, we've had a tremendous amount of inflation. And so just staying at the status quo is not going to cut it. It's going to be painful. And that's the reality of it. That's the truth of it. See, now I have to stop with the lies and with the the not talking about things for the sake of being nice. But the reality is that I think we all need to learn a new set. There's a shift that's taking place in the economy economically in this country and in this world, right? Technology is changing, currencies are changing. We're going to see a huge shift in the currency. Like I showed or did a TikTok on my business page and my IG page. Again, like for the last couple of years, I've been using cryptocurrency to transact. There's some people that only want to do business or do transactions in crypto. There's some people, like if you hire, some folks overseas to do some work for you, they will have in their application or on their profile, one of their methods of payment is preferred methods of payment is cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. Like they will explicitly share that, right? And so you need to know and be able to transact, to be able to do things globally, right? And I understand it gets scary. Like I was so nervous, which was crazy to me, about like learning about cryptocurrency. Like I was introduced honestly like several years ago. I remember the rapper Nipsey Hussle speaking about it, and shame on me for not investing in it then. But I had convinced myself that I was on some high moral ground because I was listening to some ignorant people, and and they were pointing out, well, it's not. able to be tracked as easily. So it's being used for underground things, and for like sex trafficking and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to invest in that because I don't agree with that, which was ignorant. Because now I laugh, because what do you think the USD is being used for? The same things, buying drugs, sex trafficking, and everything else. And so again, because my vantage point has changed and shifted. But um but yeah, a few years ago, my ex actually introduced me to cryptocurrency. And I remember him just trying to teach me about it, and like having me download certain apps on my phone. And I remember I just struggled, and I was like, oh, I don't get it, I don't get it, acting helpless, right? And um and then it's finally like 6 months to a year later, it started to click, and I was able to get the app set up on my phone. And then, like a year later, like I remember I was transacting with crypto at least monthly, several times a month, right? And so it started to kind of become at ease, right? Now, over the course of this last year, it became crazy because our US government started to put these different rules and things in place. So thank goodness, like I had an accountant that I was using to do my taxes, which I'm sure probably was a nightmare for her to file all that stuff and do all the, I provided her with as much information as I could, all the tracking of the ins and outs, where I would receive payments. And I don't know. They've made it so convoluted. It's crazy. And to me, it's so unnecessary, because for years they were saying, oh, it's not real, it's not real. But I feel like once they started to see that no, it really is real, people are using it to transact globally, then it's like the US government wanted to try to get their grubby little hands on it. Well, let's see if we can get our cut too. So, so again, it's good to use. Again, you have to take certain measures in place and make sure that you get a professional that knows what they're doing, and have some experience, like from a tax perspective, to make sure that you are in compliance and that you don't get yourself caught up or hung up into anything, right, by not reporting it or what have you. And so again, like the world is changing, and so it's requiring us to elevate so that we can keep up with the times. For goodness sake, like the cost of groceries, right, has increased and inflated astronomically. Um, like I can't even. It's really, when you think about some of our, maybe our family members or our senior citizens, it kind of it can be upsetting, right? Our folks that are on a fixed income. However, I think that Social Security just got a raise. I think they just got a raise like earlier this month or something. But I mean, it's almost criminal, right? I've been seeing or noticing like some things. I've noticed it a little, but I don't pay attention to it as much. I really don't go to the grocery store that often. I have a gourmet grocery store that I go to, like when I do actually physically go. And I expect to pay a little bit more at that one because they have like some things that you can't find at the regular store. But mostly I have the delivery service where I put it in the app, then they text me, and ask me questions or for substitutes. I've been noticing that there's been a shortage of a lot of things, or a lot of things aren't available. Or like as I talk to, the shoppers, they'll share with me that like, wow, the shelves are really bare. Um, but I have noticed a slight increase, but it hasn't, again, because I don't have like a family of four, or a huge amount of people that I'm buying for. It hasn't hit me as hard, right? And then even for me, because I'm on my health goals, especially, I try to eat once a day, maybe a couple times a day. I'll eat once a day and then maybe nibble or snack. But so I haven't noticed it or had a huge um, you know, like notation of like, oh, my bill doubled or what have you. But I do recognize that the prices have increased. And on social media, you can see a lot of people that have like there's been news feeds that actually are kind of comical, right? Because people have been sharing things about how like the price of like a carton of eggs has gone up so much, and and even milk. And I noticed the milk increase because I don't drink milk, but I needed to buy some for the holidays, like for Christmas, because with some of the recipes that I was using, I need to have some at the house. And that I do remember, I was like, what, they're charging what? And so yeah, the prices have increased. And so I think again, it's delusional to think that you're not going to have to elevate your income, right? And I think that, again, I don't say that it's not anything to like be sad about, but I think it's an awareness, and an awareness to really find another skill that you can add to your toolbox and really become good at and begin to market yourself in, so that you can generate or bring in, some of those additional streams of income, and really, really like start looking at ways that you can automate things and have some passive income for yourself. That's something else that I think that, especially in our community, we really need to see more examples of, and we really need to open our mindsets and be okay with having passive income. Different individuals that, I've become friendly with, it's interesting how like we'll just have conversations, and it's like nothing for them to just know and understand that they deserve to have passive income, you know? Like to have someone share with you like, yeah, I have this business, like I bring in seven figures passively. I'm like, oh my goodness, right? But again, that shouldn't be out of the norm. It shouldn't be odd for me to hear that. Um, and so I'm challenging myself to think differently about how I move and how I operate, and just again, that conscious engineering, and really making it okay for myself to know that I deserve it too. That yes, I deserve it too. That yes, it is selfish of me not to make a lot of money, right? I deserve the best, and I deserve to be able to be like that true vessel of God, right? I've started to recite over myself a quote that I learned in my 20s. Back in like 2014, I think, is when it was shared, or I was introduced to it. And it merely says that, I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I will create, not destroy. I am a force for good. I am a force for God. Set a new standard. Step up. And I repeat that over and over until it gets in me and gets me fired up and started for my day, right? Um, because I really have to, sometimes I have to remind myself of that. But I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I will create, not destroy. I am a force for good. I am a force for God. And I set a new standard, and I'm stepping up. And I'm committed to that in 2023. And I encourage each and every one of you to commit to that yourselves. And I encourage you to recognize where maybe you have some of these thoughts and beliefs that were learned behaviors. Some of them learned from our parents that we love so dearly, or grandparents. But to really sit those aside, and to really pray and ask God to open our minds and our hearts and our spirits to be able to receive the abundance that we pray about so often, right? And the prosperity that we pray about so often. And to be able to really live in it. Because once you once you begin to receive it, things will just begin to start flowing to you and flowing through you. And that's what we want, right? That's what makes the world a better place, is being able to have that prosperity flow through you onto others so that you can be a giver, so that you can change lives. Because I am a world changer, I'm a history maker, right? And so I need resources in order to be able to make that happen, and in order to make, to do those things. And so so it's okay. It's okay. Like, let's stop trying to win the gold medal to see who can live the poorest, or the most downtrodden. Sometimes I get sad, right? Because I see how some of my people are living, like some of my people that are professionals, right? Even business owners, because I don't think they know, and I don't think they've given themselves permission to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. For some of them, it may be a little fear because they have that scarcity mindset embedded deep down inside of them, that, well, I gotta wait because you don't know tomorrow, and what have you. And again, it's those things that, again, we have to do without, and we have to push out of our consciousness and know that I have all of the abundance that I will ever need, to know that God supplies all of my needs according to his riches and glory, not mine. And his riches and glory are unlimited, right? They're abundant. So therefore I should have no scarcity mindset, or no concerns or fears around running out, because it's constantly overflowing, right? And so that is a mind shift. But sometimes, like I said, I get sad because I think it's very personal where you choose to lay your head. And when I see people live in conditions that are not right, um, it really concerns me. It really does, because I really want to see our folks elevated, and I want us to really have that pride in ourselves first and foremost. Um, forget about, you know, again, like, it's nice to have some designer things, but that's not the end all be all. Like, those things will come. If it's in you, it's in you, right? Then you're gonna have them, right? Or they're gonna come to you. And you know, but just being able to, like, have good health care, being able to have, like, insurance, and have your insurance set up in such a way that you're able to protect your family even after you leave this world, so that they don't have to struggle, or put up these GoFundMe accounts and things like that. Just making sure that you have some of those things in place is important. And again, the only way that you can do that is not by struggling, is putting yourself in a position to win, putting yourself in a position to live in abundance, right? And stop speaking over yourself. Again, some people think that it's a noble thing. And I tell you what, um, you may be cutting yourself short, right? Because I've listened to people talk about, some things that they don't like designer, they don't wear designer. And I think that, honestly, I think some of that is a lie. I think that it's a lie that they told themselves to try to feel comfortable, because they've told themselves that they don't think that they will have it. And when you do that, and when you exclaim it, and especially in front of people, see, somebody that can bless you with it, I've heard you, right? So when I'm shopping, or I'm at Saks, and I'm like, oh, that's so and so's favorite color. Oh, maybe I should pick one up. I'm gonna have them box one up for her too. But then I'm gonna remember, though, what she said, she don't like designer, right? So you better be careful, because you might be blocking your blessing, right? So you will never hear me talk about or exclaim, I don't do all that, or I don't, I really don't get into that. Okay, you will never hear me proclaim or exclaim that over my life, because there's been times where I have been blessed, you know, um, with things that I didn't even ask for, things that I didn't even know I wanted. And and again, don't cut yourself short, right? And stop thinking that's something to brag on. Again, we're over here elevating life, elevating our mindsets. elevating our lifestyles and our consciousness. And so, I just wanted to hop on. It's the end of the week. It's getting late, so I'm gonna get off of here because I got some unwinding to do for this weekend. 'Cause and getting ready for the next week to come, honey. But no, I'll be coming at you with some business tips, from my consulting business. There'll be like there's some free nuggets that I can give you. I actually do have some things up on the site. It's www.edmund edmund dash enterprises.com. Again, Edmund, EDMUND enterprises.com. If you are a small business owner, I have some policies up there. I have my new ebook, A Case for Cultural Competence in Business, that's up on the site. You can purchase those and download them immediately. I'll be getting some more policies up there, and some more contracts that people can download and like fill in the blanks for themselves, because I realize, like, again, some of us are stepping out on faith and have those businesses, but we don't know what we don't know. And so, um, again, I applaud you for stepping out on faith because I know it can be hard. I've gone through these steps myself. I'm still working through them. But we want to make sure that you're doing it in order, decent and in order, that you're in compliance and that you're not setting yourself up for litigation or for nonsense, that you're protected, especially as you're beginning to like bring on additional help and employees, whether they're here from the US or overseas. A new service that I am launching or have introduced, is up and ready now, is the management of overseas help, of virtual assistants and social media experts that will be managed through Edmund Enterprises. Where we'll handle all of the payroll for those individuals, but we can get you set up with them for help. We'll manage any of the employee relations issues that might come up, because I understand. I had to realize, like, yeah, although like I do this stuff in my sleep, I had over a 20-year career in human resources, right? So I don't mind like doing the coaching or having to have some of the tough conversations. But for a lot of like new business owners, especially if they haven't ever managed people before, like that can be stressful, right? Especially if you're not confrontational and you avoid confrontation. And so I want to eliminate all of that. Again, my goal with Edmund Enterprises is to set you up for success. And so again, it made sense. It came to me like the last couple weeks. Actually, God brought someone in my life that shared with me, um, kind of this business structure that he'd set up, and how he set it up. And he's over, and again, this is someone else that's sitting over in another country, and I realized God connected me with him so that he could share that with me to open my vantage point, right? But I still didn't get it. Sometimes it takes me a minute. And so then, God kind of showed me and started to give me favor to be able to network with different individuals, to be able to really, kind of get this set up, and and get things going with this. So again, if you do need some additional help and resources and you're not sure how to go about it, again, you can send us a note at info@edmund-enterprises.com. You can go to the website www.edmund-enterprises.com, and there's a contact us button that'll get you right into our email, and just let us know that you're looking for help, for additional resources to help you with your business, for staffing needs. Okay. But again, I am Lamborghini C, and have a great weekend, guys. Bye.